subscribe our channel and press the bell icon to get notified about our future videos. To the questions. Question 1. Your developers have created a portal web app for users in the Miami branch office. The web app will be publicly accessible and used by the Miami users to retrieve customer and product information. The web app is currently running in an on-premises test environment. You plan to host the web app on Azure. You need to determine which Azure Web Tier plan to host the web app. The Web Tier plan must meet the following requirements. The website will use the miami.wayland.com URL. The website will be deployed to 2 instances. SSL support must be included. The website requires 12 GB of storage. Costs must be minimized. Which web tier plan should you use? The correct option is A, standard. The keyword here is 12 GB. The free plan and the shared plan provides us with 1 GB. The basic plans offers 10 GB. The standard plan offers 50 GB. The premium plan offers 250 GB and the isolated plan offers 1 TB. For our requirements, standard is the most suitable plan. Question 2. Your developers have created 10 web applications that must be hosted on Azure. You need to determine which Azure Web Tier plan to host the web apps. The Web Tier plan must meet the following requirements. The web apps will use custom domains. The web apps each require 10 GB of storage. The web apps must each run in dedicated compute instances. Load balancing between instances must be included. Costs must be minimized. Which web tier plan should you use? The correct option is A, standard. Please read the requirements and note here the load balancing fact. The web apps will use custom domains. Basic, shared, and standard support custom domain. The web apps each require 10 GB of storage. Basic and standard support this. The web apps must each run in dedicated compute instances. Basic supports 3 instance max, where standard supports 10 max. Load balancing between instances must be included. Free, shared, and basic don't support load balancing. Standard and above tier only support load balancing and auto scaling. Costs must be minimized. Standard is less costlier than premium and isolated. Question 3. Your company has data centers in Los Angeles and New York. The company has a Microsoft Azure subscription. You are configuring the 2 data centers as geo-clustered sites for site resiliency. You need to recommend an Azure storage redundancy option. You have the following data storage requirements. Data must be stored on multiple nodes. Data must be stored on nodes in separate geographic location. Data can be read from the secondary location as well as from the primary location. Which of the following Azure stored redundancy options should you recommend? The correct option is B, read-only geo-redundant storage. RAGRS allows you to have higher read availability for your storage account by providing read-only access to the data replicated to the secondary location. Once you enable this feature, the secondary location may be used to achieve higher availability in the event the data is not available in the primary region. This is an opt-in feature which requires the storage account to be geo-replicated. Question 4. What are 2 characteristics of the public cloud? Each correct answer presents a complete solution. Note, each correct selection is worth 1 point. The correct options are D and E, that is metered pricing and self-service management. With the public cloud, you get pay-as-you-go pricing. You pay only for what you use, no capex costs. With the public cloud, you have self-service management. You are responsible for the deployment and configuration of the cloud resources such as virtual machines or websites. The underlying hardware that hosts the cloud resources is managed by the cloud provider. Question 5. You have an on-premises network that contains several servers. You plan to migrate all the servers to Azure. You need to recommend a solution to ensure that some of the servers are available if a single Azure data center goes offline for an extended period. What should you include in the recommendation? The correct option is A. Fault tolerance. Fault tolerance is the ability of a system to continue to function in the event of a failure of some of its components. In this question, you could have servers that are replicated across data centers. Availability zones expand the level of control you have to maintain the availability of the application and data on your virtual machines. Availability zones are unique physical locations within an Azure region. Each zone is made up of one or more data centers equipped with independent power, cooling, and networking. To ensure resiliency, there are a minimum of 3 separate zones in all enabled regions. The physical separation of availability zones within a region protects applications and data from data center failures. With availability zones, Azure offers industry's best 99.99% virtual machine uptime (SLA) by architecting your solution to use replicated virtual machines in zones. You can protect your applications and data from the loss of a data center. If one zone is compromised, then replicated apps and data are instantly available in another zone. Question 6. Your company has virtual machines hosted in Microsoft Azure. The virtual machines are located in a single Azure virtual network named VNet1. The company has users that work remotely. The remote workers require access to the virtual machines on VNet1. You need to provide access for the remote workers. What should you do? The correct option is C. Configure a point-to-site VPN. A point-to-site VPN gateway connection lets you create a secure connection to your virtual network from an individual client computer. Question 7. To which cloud models can you deploy physical servers? The correct option is A. Private cloud and hybrid cloud only. A private cloud is on premises, so you can deploy physical servers. A hybrid cloud is a mix of on premises and public cloud resources. You can deploy physical servers on premises. Question 8. You plan to provision infrastructure as a service resources in Azure. Which resource is an example of infrastructure as a service? The correct option is B. An Azure virtual machine. An Azure virtual machine is an example of infrastructure as a service. Azure Web App, Azure Logic App, and Azure SQL Database are all examples of platform as a service. Question 9. Your company has an on-premises network that contains multiple servers. The company plans to reduce the following administrative responsibilities: backing up application data, replacing failed server hardware, managing physical server security, updating server operating systems, managing permissions to shared documents. The company plans to migrate servers to Azure virtual machines. You need to identify which administrative responsibilities will be eliminated after the planned region. Which two responsibilities should you identify? Each correct answer presents a complete solution. Note, each correct selection is worth 1 point. The correct options are A and C, that is replacing failed server hardware and managing physical server security. Azure virtual machines run on Hyper-V physical servers. The physical servers are owned and managed by Microsoft. As an Azure customer, you have no access to the physical servers. Microsoft manage the replacement of failed server hardware and the security of the physical servers, so you don't need to. Question 10. You have 1000 virtual machines hosted on the Hyper-V hosts in a data center. You plan to migrate all the virtual machines to an Azure pay-as-you-go subscription. You need to identify which expenditure model to use for the planned Azure solution. Which expenditure model should you identify? The correct option is A. Operational. One of the major changes that you will face when you move from on-premises cloud to the public cloud is the switch from capital expenditure to operating expenditure. This switch also requires more careful management of your costs. The benefit of the cloud is that you can fundamentally and positively affect the cost of a service you use by merely shutting down or resizing it when it is not needed. The expenditure models are either CapEx or OpEx. CapEx is what you pay upfront or on premises for servers, racks, cooling, security, and the data center itself. OpEx is what you pay to keep your infrastructure operational, like IT staff. In this case, when you move to the cloud, what you identify in this case is the OpEx or operational model. This is because you actually don't have CapEx on the cloud, as you pay for the resources you use and not for the underlying hardware, security, cooling, etc. that you will pay for in an on-premises solution. This is why the right answer is A. Operational. Elastic and scalable are not expenditure models. Question 11. In which type of cloud model? In which type of cloud model are all the hardware resources owned by a third party and shared between multiple tenants? The correct option is C. Public. Private cloud taken care of by the internal organization to which it belongs. Private cloud taken care of by the internal organization to which it belongs. Public cloud entirely taken care of by third party such as Azure, AWS, and GCP. Hybrid cloud, combination of on-premises as well as public. Question 12. You plan to migrate several servers from an on-premises network to Azure. What is an advantage of using a public cloud service for the servers over an on-premises network? The correct option is D. The public cloud is a shared entity whereby multiple corporations each use a portion of the resources in the cloud. The public cloud is a shared entity whereby multiple corporations each use a portion of the resources in the cloud. The hardware resources are managed by the cloud provider. Multiple companies create resources such as virtual machines and virtual networks on the hardware resources. Question 13. You have an on-premises network that contains 100 servers. You need to recommend a solution that provides additional resources to your users. The solution must minimize capital and operational expenditure costs. What should you include in the recommendation? The correct option is D. Hybrid cloud. A hybrid cloud is a combination of a private cloud and a public cloud. Capital expenditure is the spending of money upfront for infrastructure such as new servers. With a hybrid cloud, you can continue to use the on-premises servers while adding new servers in the public cloud. Adding new servers in Azure minimizes the capital expenditure costs as you are not paying for new servers as you would if you deployed new server on premises. Question 14. You plan to migrate a web application to Azure. The web application is accessed by external users. You need to recommend a cloud deployment solution to minimize the amount of administrative effort used to manage the web application. What should you include in the recommendation? The correct option is B. Platform as a service. The keywords are migrate and administration. Azure App Service is a platform as a service offering that lets you create web and mobile apps for any platform or device and connect to data anywhere in the cloud or on premises. App Service includes the web and mobile capabilities that were previously delivered separately as Azure Websites and Azure Mobile Services. Question 15. Your company hosts an accounting application named App1 that is used by all the customers of the company. App1 has low usage during the first 3 weeks of each month and very high usage during the last week of each month. Which benefit of Azure Cloud Services supports cost management for this type of usage pattern? The correct option is C. Elasticity. Elasticity, in this case, is the ability to provide additional compute resource when needed and reduce the compute resource when not needed to reduce costs. Autoscaling is an example of elasticity. Elastic computing is the ability to quickly expand or decrease computer processing memory to meet changing demands without worrying about capacity planning and engineering for peak usage. Typically controlled by system monitoring tools, elastic computing matches the amount of resources allocated to the amount of resources actually needed without disrupting operations. With cloud elasticity, a company avoids paying for unused capacity or idle resources and doesn't have to worry about investing in the purchase or maintenance of additional resources and equipment. Question 16. Hotspot. For each of the following statements, select yes if the statement is true, otherwise select no. Note, each correct solution is worth 1 point. To the answer area, statement. Azure pay as you go pricing is an example of capex. The correct option is no. To the next statement, paying electricity for your data center is an example of OPEX. The correct option is yes. To the last statement, deploying your own data center is an example of CAPEX. The correct option is yes. One of the major changes that you will face when you move from on-premises cloud to the public cloud is the switch from capital expenditure to operating expenditure. About the boxes, box 1, with the pay as you go model, you pay for services as you use them. This is OPEX, not CAPEX. CAPEX is where you pay for something upfront. For example, buying a new physical server. About box 2, electricity is not an asset. The company cannot own it. It is seen as an OPEX. About box 3, deploying your own data center is an example of CAPEX. This is because you need to purchase all the infrastructure upfront before you can use it. Question 17. Hotspot. For each of the following statements, select yes if the statement is true, otherwise select no. Note, each correct selection is worth 1 point. To the answer area, statements. A platform as a service solution provides full control of operating systems that host applications. The correct option is no. To the next statement, a platform as a service solution provides additional memory to apps by changing pricing tiers. The correct option is yes. To the last statement, a platform as a service solution can automatically scale the number of instances. The correct option is yes. Question 18. Hotspot. To complete the sentence, select the appropriate option in the answer area. To the answer area, an Azure web app that queries an on-premises Microsoft SQL server is an example of a dash cloud. The correct option is hybrid. Hybrid cloud, sometimes called a cloud hybrid, is a computing environment that combines an on-premises data center with a public cloud, allowing data and applications to be shared between them. Some people define hybrid cloud to include multi-cloud configurations where an organization uses more than one public cloud in addition to their on-premises data center. Question 19. Hotspot. To complete the sentence, select the appropriate option in the answer area. To the answer area, Azure Site Recovery provides dash for virtual machines. The correct option is disaster recovery. The answer is disaster recovery. Azure Site Recovery is a disaster recovery service provided by Microsoft Azure, which can be used to protect and recover virtual machines. Question 20. Hotspot. Which cloud deployment solution is used for Azure virtual machines and Azure SQL databases? To answer, select the appropriate options in the answer area. Note, each correct selection is worth 1 point. To the answer area, Azure virtual machines. The correct option is infrastructure as a service. To the next statement, Azure SQL databases. The correct option is platform as a service. About box 1, Azure virtual machines are infrastructure as a service. Infrastructure as a service is the most flexible category of cloud services. It aims to give you complete control over the hardware that runs your application. Instead of buying hardware with infrastructure as a service, you rent it. About box 2, Azure SQL databases are platform as a service. Azure SQL databases is a fully managed platform as a service database engine that handles most of the database management functions such as upgrading, patching, backups, and monitoring without user involvement. Azure SQL database is always running on the latest stable version of the SQL Server database engine and patched OS with 99.99% availability. Platform as a service capabilities that are built into Azure SQL database enable you to focus on the domain-specific database administration and optimization activities that are critical for your business. Question 21. Hotspot. To complete the sentence, select the appropriate option in the answer area. To the answer area, when planning to migrate a public website to Azure, you must plan to. The correct answer is pay monthly usage costs. When planning to migrate a public website to Azure, you must plan to pay monthly usage costs. This is because Azure uses the pay-as-you-go model. Question 22. Hotspot. To complete the sentence, select the appropriate option in the answer area. To the answer area, an organization that hosts its infrastructure dash no longer requires a data center. The correct option is in the public cloud. A private cloud is hosted in your data center. Therefore, you cannot close your data center if you are using a private cloud. A public cloud is hosted externally. For example, in Microsoft Azure, an organization that hosts its infrastructure in a public cloud can close its data center. Public cloud is the most common deployment model. In this case, you have no local hardware to manage or keep up to date. Everything runs on your cloud provider's hardware. Microsoft Azure is an example of public cloud provider. In a private cloud, you create a cloud environment in your own data center and provide self-service access to compute resources to users in your organization. This offers a simulation of a public cloud to your users, but you remain completely responsible for the purchase and maintenance of the hardware and software services you provide. Question 23. Hotspot. To complete the sentence, select the appropriate option in the answer area. To the answer area, when you are implementing a software as a service solution, you are responsible for the correct option is configuring the software as a service solution. When you are implementing a software as a service solution, you are responsible for configuring the SaaS solution. Everything else is managed by the cloud provider. SaaS requires the least amount of management. The cloud provider is responsible for managing everything, and the end user just uses the software. Software as a service allows users to connect to and use cloud based apps over the internet. Common examples are email, calendaring, and office tools. SaaS provides a complete software solution which you purchase on a pay as you go basis from a cloud service provider. You rent the use of an app for your organization and your users connect to it over the internet, usually with a web browser. All of the underlying infrastructure, middleware, app software, and app data are located in the service provider's data center. The service provider manages the hardware and software, and with the appropriate service agreement, will ensure the availability and the security of the app and your data as well. Question 24. Hotspot. For each of the following statements, select yes if the statement is true, otherwise select no. Note, each correct selection is worth 1 point. To the answer area, statement. Azure provides flexibility between capital expenditure and operational expenditure. The correct option is yes. To the next statement, if you create two Azure virtual machines that use the B2S size, each virtual machine will always generate the same monthly costs. The correct option is no. To the last statement, when an Azure virtual machine is stopped, you continue to pay storage costs associated to the virtual machine. The correct option is yes. About box 1, traditionally, IT expenses have been considered as capex. Today, with the move to the cloud and pay as you go model, organizations have the ability to stretch their budgets and are shifting their IT capex costs to operating expenditures. Instead, this flexibility in accounting terms is now an option due to the as a service model of purchasing software, cloud storage, and other IT related services and other IT related resources. About box 2, two virtual machines using the same size could have different disk configurations. Therefore, the monthly costs could be different. About box 3, when an Azure virtual machine is stopped, you don't pay for the virtual machine. However, you do still pay for the storage costs associated to the virtual machine. The most common storage costs are for the disks attached to the virtual machines. There are also other storage costs associated with a virtual machine, such as storage for diagnostic data and virtual machine backups. Question 25, drag drop. The company would like to develop a cloud solution by making use of Azure Government. Azure Government can only be used by certain type of clients to develop cloud solutions. Which of the following are the types of customers that can make use of Azure Government in this situation? Answer by dragging the correct option from the list to the answer area. Our options are a government contractor from any country, a government entity from any country, a European government contractor, a European government entity, a United States government contractor, or a United States government entity. The correct options are a US government contractor and a US government entity. Azure Government is the mission critical cloud delivering breakthrough innovation to the US government customers, and their partners. Only US federal, state, local, and tribal governments and their partners have access to this dedicated instance. Question 26, drag drop. Your company intends to subscribe to an Azure support plan. The support plan must allow for new support requests to be opened. Which of the following are support plans that will allow this? Answer by dragging the correct option from the list to the answer area. The options provided to us are Basic, Developer, Standard, Professional Direct, and Premier. The correct options are Basic, Developer, Standard, and Professional Direct. Basic is at the top with Professional Direct at the bottom, as Premier is now only supported for the existing users until 1st July 2022, but not for new users. This question shows that you are a new user. Note, the questions from 27 to 40 are a part of a series of multiple questions that present the same scenario. Each question in the series contains a unique solution that might meet the stated goals. Some question sets might have more than one correct answer, while others might not have a correct answer. After you answer a question in this section, you will not be able to return to it. As a result, these questions will not appear in the review screen. Question 27. Your company's Azure subscription includes a basic support plan. They would like to request an assessment of an Azure environment's design from Microsoft. This is, however, not supported by the existing plan. You want to make sure that the company subscribe to a support plan that allows this functionality while keeping expenses to a minimum. Solution, you recommend that the company subscribes to the Professional Direct support plan. Does the solution meet the goal? The correct option is B, no. To request an assessment of your Azure environment's design from Microsoft, you will need to have an Azure support plan that includes access to Azure Architecture Center. This service provides guidance and best practices for designing and deploying solutions on Azure and includes access to a team of Azure architecture experts who can provide personalized assistance. There are 3 Azure support plans that include access to the Azure Architecture Center: the Standard, Professional Direct, and Premier plans. Of these, the Standard plan is the most economical plan. The Standard plan includes the following benefits: access to the Azure Architecture Center, unlimited technical support, 24/7 support, support through Azure Portal, Azure Support API, and Azure Support Center, monthly Azure Service Health notifications. The cost of the standard plan is based on your Azure spend. It is typically around 10% of your Azure spend, but may be lower if your Azure spend is over a certain threshold. Question 28. You are tasked with deploying Azure virtual machines for your company. You need to make use of the appropriate cloud deployment solution. You should make use of platform as a service. Does the solution meet the goal? The correct answer is B. No. No, virtual machines are deployed in infrastructure as a service. Azure virtual machines are fully operational virtual compute devices running in Microsoft data centers. Question 29. You are tasked with deploying Azure virtual machines for your company. You need to make use of the appropriate cloud deployment solution. You should make use of infrastructure as a service. Does the solution meet the goal? The correct answer is A. Yes. Virtual machines and Azure storage accounts is infrastructure as a service. Question 30. Your company is planning to migrate all their virtual machines to an Azure pay as you go subscription. The virtual machines are currently hosted on the Hyper-V hosts in a data center. You are required to make sure that the intended Azure solution uses the correct expenditure model. Solution. You should recommend the use of the elastic expenditure model. Does the solution meet the goal? The correct option is B. No. Elasticity is not an expenditure model, rather is one of the characteristics of cloud computing. The basic advantage of cloud computing is shifting your high capex requirements to optimal pay-as-you-go model, which is operational expenditure. Question 31. Your company is planning to migrate all their virtual machines to an Azure pay-as-you-go subscription. The virtual machines are currently hosted on the Hyper-V hosts in a data center. You are required to make sure that the intended Azure solution uses the correct expenditure model. Solution. You should recommend the use of the scalable expenditure model. Does the solution meet the goal? The correct option is B. No. Answer is no because we have two expenditure models. One is capex, another is opex. So scalable expenditure is not the right answer. Question 32. Your company is planning to migrate all their virtual machines to an Azure pay-as-you-go subscription. The virtual machines are currently hosted on the Hyper-V hosts in a data center. You are required to make sure that the intended Azure solution uses the correct expenditure model. Solution. You should recommend the use of the OpEx model. Does the solution meet the goal? The correct answer is A. Yes. Operating expenditures are ongoing costs of doing business. Consuming cloud services in a pay-as-you-go model could qualify as an operating expenditure. Question 33. You are required to deploy an artificial intelligence solution in Azure. You want to make sure that you are able to build, test, and deploy predictive analytics for the solution. Solution. You should make use of Azure Cosmos DB. Does the solution meet the goal? The correct option is B. No. Machine Learning Studio is a drag and drop tool you can use to build, test, and deploy predictive analytics solutions. Azure Cosmos DB is a fully managed NoSQL database for modern app development. AI fits with ML, not with Cosmos DB. So answer is B. Question 34. You are required to deploy an artificial intelligence solution in Azure. You want to make sure that you are able to build, test, and deploy predictive analytics for the solution. You should make use of Azure Machine Learning Studio. Does the solution meet the goal? The correct option is A. Yes. Machine Learning Studio is a drag and drop tool you can use to build, test, and deploy predictive analytics solutions. Question 35. Your company's infrastructure includes a number of business units that each need a large number of various Azure resources for everyday operation. The resources required by each business unit are identical. You are required to sanction a strategy to create Azure resources automatically. Solution. You recommend that the Azure API management service be included in the strategy. Does the solution meet the goal? The correct option is B. No. Azure API Management Service is a way to create and manage customer APIs for existing back-end services. The question is asking about a way to create Azure resources automatically. ARM is a tool that automates the deployments on the AZ cloud. Question 36. Your company's infrastructure includes a number of business units that each need a large number of various Azure resources for everyday operation. The resources required by each business unit are identical. You are required to sanction a strategy to create Azure resources automatically. Solution. You recommend that management groups be included in the strategy. Does the solution meet the goal? The correct answer is B. No. B is correct. It should be ARM template. To meet these challenges, you can automate deployments and use the practice of infrastructure as code. In code, you define the infrastructure that needs to be deployed. The infrastructure code becomes part of a project. Just like application code, you store the infrastructure code in a source repository and version it. Anyone on your team can run the code and deploy similar environments. Question 37. Your company's infrastructure includes a number of business units that each need a large number of various Azure resources for everyday operation. The resources required by each business unit are identical. You are required to sanction a strategy to create Azure resources automatically. Solution. You recommend that the Azure Resource Manager templates be included in the strategy. Does the solution meet the goal? The correct option is A. Yes. Question 28. Question 38. Your company's developers intend to deploy a large number of custom virtual machines on a weekly basis. They will also be removing these virtual machines during the same week it was deployed. 60% of the virtual machines have Windows Server 2016 installed, while the other 40% has Ubuntu Linux installed. You are required to make sure that the administrative effort needed for this process is reduced by employing a suitable Azure service. Solution. You recommend the use of Microsoft Managed Desktop. Does the solution meet the goal? The correct option is B. No. It is not Microsoft Managed Desktop. The correct answer should be Azure DevTest Labs. Question 29. Your company's developers intend to deploy a large number of custom virtual machines on a weekly basis. They will also be removing these virtual machines during the same week it was deployed. 60% of the virtual machines have Windows Server 2016 installed, while the other 40% has Ubuntu Linux installed. You are required to make sure that the administrative effort needed for this process is reduced by employing a suitable Azure service. Solution. You recommend the use of Azure reserved virtual machines instances. Does the solution meet the goal? The correct option is B. No. Question 40. Your company's developers intend to deploy a large number of custom virtual machines on a weekly basis. They will also be removing these virtual machines during the same week it was deployed. 60% of the virtual machines have Windows Server 2016 installed, while the other 40% has Ubuntu Linux installed. You are required to make sure that the administrative effort for this process is reduced by employing a suitable Azure service. Solution. You recommend the use of Azure DevTest Labs. Does the solution meet the goal? The correct option is A. Yes. The benefits. Use DevTest Labs for free. Quickly provision development and test environments. Minimize waste with quotas and policies. Set automated shutdowns to minimize costs, and build Windows and Linux environments.